Siddhaswarupaya Radha Krishna Prestaya
Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prestaya
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa iti nadite
Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nayaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nayaya
Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nayaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nayaya
Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Gururanga Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Gururanga
Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Guranga Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Guranga
Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev
Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev
Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa
Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa
Bhakti Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasudeva Bhakta Vrinda
Bhakti Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasudeva Bhakta Vrinda
Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana
Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana
Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana Gopala Govinda Rama
Krishna
Madana Mohana Mohana.
Gopala Gopita Rama, Madana Mohana. Gopala Gopita Rama, Madana Mohana.
Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana.
Hari Bol Krishna,
Gopala Govinda Rama,
Hari Bol Krishna.
Madana Mohana.
Gopala Gopita Rama, Madana Mohana. Gopala Gopita Rama, Madana Mohana.
Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Guranga,
Krishna,
Jaya Jaya Gurudev,
Hari Bol Krishna.
Jaya Jaya Guranga.
Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Guranga. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Guranga.
Jaya Jaya Shila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev,
Krishna,
Jaya Jaya Shila Prabhupada,
Hari Bol Krishna.
Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Jaya Jaya Shila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Shila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda, Paramahamsa.
Krishna,
Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda,
Hari Bol Krishna,
Paramahamsa.
Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa, Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa.
Namo Siddhaswarupananda, Paramahamsa Namine, Gora Karuna Swarupaya, Radha Krishna Prestayate.
Namo Siddhaswarupananda, Paramahamsa Namine, Ora Karuna Swarupaya, Radha Krishna Prasayate.
Haribol Namaste. Let us continue our study program. Our program now will be centered around listening and hearing the heart, the desire, the surrender of the pure loving servant of the Supreme Person, so we can have this focus and guidance of where we should be heading. So we can also check ourselves if we are going forward, or due to our lack of surrender, or we always see ourselves fall far short, but there is always a room, a way, a door to achieve what Lord Krishna wants us to achieve, what our spiritual master would want us to be having pure loving service to the Supreme Person, and what Lord Krishna wants us to do, to offer our heart, our love, our whole being in His loving service, to come to the point wherein our life is Krishna's will, not anymore what we want, but rather doing what is pleasing to the Supreme Person. So the process we've been following is that it is Lord Krishna Himself who will be guiding us if we filially and lovingly and humbly follow His desire to love Him. So I'll read here one of the pastimes of Lord Krishna, when he was here 5,000 years ago, Krishna the rancher. When Mukunda, the celebrated descendant of Ikshvaku dynasty, was favored by Lord Krishna, he circumambulated the Lord within the cave and then came out. On coming out of the cave, Muchukunda saw that the stature of the human species had been surprisingly reduced to pygmy size. Similarly, the trees had also far reduced in size. And Muchukunda could immediately understand that the current age was Kali Yuga. Therefore, without diverting his attention, he began to travel north, eventually reached the mountains known as Madana. It appeared there were many trees on this mountain, such as sandalwood and other flower trees, the flavor which made anyone joyful who reached them. He decided to remain in that Gandhamadana mountain region in order to execute austerities and penances for the rest of his life. It appears that this place is situated in the northernmost part of the Himalayan mountains, where the abode of Narayan is situated. This place is still existing. It's called Badarikashram. In Badarikashram, he engaged himself in the worship of Lord Krishna, forgetting all the pain and pleasure and other dualities of this material world. Lord Krishna returned to the vicinity of the city of Mathura and began to fight with the soldiers of Kalayavana and killed them one after another. After this, he collected all the booty from the dead bodies, and under his direction, it was loaded on bullock carts by big men brought back to Dwarka. Meanwhile, Jarasandha again attacked Mathura, this time with bigger division of soldiers numbering 23 Asuhinis. Lord Krishna wanted to save Mathura from the 18th attack of the great military division of King Jarasandha. In order to prevent further killing of soldiers to attend other personal business, Lord Krishna left the battlefield without fighting. Actually, he was not afraid at all, but he pretended to be an ordinary human being frightened by the immense quantity of soldiers and resources of Jarasandha. Without any weapons, he left the battlefield. Although his lotus feet were as soft as the petals of the lotus flower, he proceeded for a very long distance on foot. This time, Jarasandha thought that Krishna and Balaram were very much afraid of his military strength and were fleeing from the battlefield. He began to parley them with all his chariots, horses, and infantry. He thought Krishna and Balaram to be ordinary human beings, and he was trying to measure the activities of Lord Krishna, known as the rancher, which means one who has left the battlefield. In India, especially in the Gujarat, there are many temples of Krishna which are known as temples of Rankorji. Ordinarily, if a king leaves the battlefield without fighting, he is called a coward. But when Krishna enacts these pastimes, leaving the battlefield without fighting, he is worshipped by the devotee. A demon always tries to measure the opulence of Krishna, whereas the devotee never tries to measure the strength and opulence, but always surrender unto him and worship him. By following the footsteps of pure devotees, we can know that Krishna, the Rankorji, did not leave the battlefield because he was afraid, but because he had some other purpose. The purpose, as it will be revealed, was to attend to a confidential letter sent by Rukmini, his future wife. The acts of Krishna leaving the battlefield is a display of one of his 6 opulences. Krishna is the supreme powerful, the supreme wealthy, the supreme famous, the supreme wise, the supreme beautiful. Similarly, he is the supreme renouncer. Srimad Bhagavatam clearly states that he left the battlefield in spite of having ample military strength. Even without his militia, however, he alone would have been sufficient to defeat the army of Jarasandha, as he had done 17 times before. Therefore, his leaving the battlefield is an example of his supermost opulence of renunciation. After traversing a very long distance, the brothers pretended to become very tired. To mitigate their weariness, they climbed up a very high mountain several miles above the sea level. This mountain was called Prabharsana due to constant rain. The peak was always covered with clouds sent by Indra. Jarasandha took it for granted that the two brothers were afraid of his military power and had hidden themselves at the top of the mountain. First he tried to find them, searching for a long time. But when he failed, he decided to trap and kill them by setting fires around the peak. He therefore surrounded the peak with oil, set it on fire. As the blaze spread more and more, Krishna and Balaram jumped from the top of the mountain down to the ground, a distance of 88 miles. Thus, while the peak was burning, Krishna and Balaram escaped without being seen by Jarasandha. Jarasandha concluded that the two brothers had been burned to ashes and that there was no need of further fighting. Thinking himself successful in his effort, he left the city of Mathura and returned to his home in the kingdom of Magadha. Gradually, Krishna and Balaram reached the city of Dwarka, which was surrounded on all sides by the sea. Following this, Sri Balaram married Revati, daughter of King Bata, ruler of Anarta province. This is explained in the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. After the marriage of Baladev, Krishna married Rukmini. Rukmini was the daughter of King Bhismaka, ruler of the province known as Vidarbha. Just as Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, Vasudev, Rukmini is the supreme goddess of fortune, Mahalakshmi. According to the authority of Chaitanya Charitamrita, the expansion of Krishna and Srimati Radharani is simultaneous. Krishna expands himself into various Vishnu Tattva forms, and Srimati Radharani expands herself into various Sakti Tattva forms by her internal potency as multi-forms of the goddess of fortune. According to Vedic convention, there are 8 kinds of marriage. In the first-class marriage system, the parents of the bride and the bride's groom arrange the marriage date. Then in royal style, the bridegroom goes to the house of the bride. In the presence of the brahmanas, priests and relatives, the bride is given charity to the bridegroom. Beside this, there is another system such as Gandharva and Rakshasa marriage. Rukmini was married to Krishna in the Rakshasa style because she was kidnapped by him in the presence of his many rivals like Sisupala, Jarasandha, Salva, and others. While Rukmini was being given in charity to Sisupala, she was snatched from the marriage arena by Krishna, exactly as Garuda snatched the pot of nectar from the demons. Rukmini, the only daughter of King Bhismaka, was exquisitely beautiful. She was known as Rusi Ranana, which means one who has a beautiful face, expanding like a lotus flower. Devotees of Krishna are always anxious to hear about the transcendental activities of the Lord. His activities of fighting, kidnapping, and running away from the battlefield are all transcendental. Being on the absolute platform, the devotees take a transcendental interest in hearing of them. The pure devotee does not make the distinction that some activities of the Lord should be heard and others should be avoided. There is, however, a class so-called devotees known as Prakrita Sahajiya, who are very interested in hearing Krishna's Rasa Lila with the gopis, but not about his fighting activities with his enemies. They do not know that his bellicose activities and his friendly activities with the gopis are equally transcendental, being on the absolute platform. The transcendental pastimes. The transcendental pastimes of Krishna described in the Srimad Bhagavatam are relished by pure devotees through submissive oral reception. They do not reject even a drop. The story of Krishna's marriage with Rukmini is described as follows. The king of Vidarbha, Maharaj Bhismaka, was very qualified and devoted prince. He had 5 sons and only 1 daughter. The first son was devoted prince. He had 5 sons and only 1 daughter. The first son was known as Rukmi. The second, Rumaratha. The third, Rukmabahu. The fourth and youngest, Rukmakesa. And the fifth, Rukma Mamali. The brothers had one young sister, Rukmini. She was beautiful and chaste and was meant to be married to Lord Krishna. Many saintly persons and sages like Narada Muni and others used to visit the palace of King Bhismaka. Naturally, Rukmini had a chance to talk with them. And in this way, she obtained information about Krishna. She was informed about the 6 opulence of Krishna, and simply by hearing about him, she desired to surrender herself to the lotus feet and become his wife. Krishna had also heard of Rukmini. She was the reserva of all transcendental qualities: intelligence, liberal-mindedness, exquisite beauty, and righteous behavior. Krishna therefore decided she was fit to be his wife. All the family members and relatives of King Bhismaka decided that Rukmini should be given marriage to Krishna. However, her elder brother Rukmi, despite the desire of others, arranged for her marriage with Sisupala, a determined enemy of Krishna. When the black-eyed, beautiful Rukmini heard the settlement, she immediately became very morose. However, being a king's daughter, she understood political diplomacy and decided that there was no use in simply becoming morose. Some steps should be taken immediately. After some deliberation, she decided to send a message to Krishna. And so that she might not be deceived, she selected a qualified Brahmana as her messenger. Such qualified Brahmana is always truthful and is a devotee of Vishnu. Without delay, the Brahmana was sent to Dwarka. Reaching the gate of Dwarka, the Brahmana informed the doorkeeper of his arrival, and the doorkeeper led him to the place where Krishna was sitting on a golden throne. Since the Brahmana had the opportunity of being Rukmini's messenger, he was fortunate enough to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna is the original cause of all causes. A Brahmana is the spiritual master of all social divisions. Lord Krishna, in order to teach everyone the Vedic etiquette of how to respect a Brahmana, immediately got up and offered his throne. When the Brahmana was seated on a golden throne, Lord Krishna began to worship him exactly in the manner which the demigods worship Krishna. In this way, he taught everyone that worshiping his devotee is more valuable than worshiping himself. In due time, the Brahmana took his bath, accepted his meals, and took to rest on a bedstead completely bedecked with salt silk. As he was resting, Lord Krishna silently approached and with great respect put the Brahmana's leg on his lap and began to massage them. In this way, Krishna appeared before the Brahmana and said, "My dear Brahmana, I hope that you're executing the religious principles without any difficulty and that your mind is always in a peaceful condition. Different classes of people in social system are engaged in various professions. When one inquires as to the well-being of a particular person, it must be done on the basis of that person's occupation. Therefore, when one inquires to the welfare of a Brahmana, the question should be worded according to the condition of life so as not to disturb him. A peaceful mind is the basis for becoming truthful, clean, equiposed, self-controlled, and tolerant. Thus, by attaining knowledge and knowing its practical application in life, one becomes convinced about the absolute truth. The Brahmana knew Krishna to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and still he accepted the respectful observance of the Lord on grounds of Vedic social convention. Lord Krishna was playing just like an ordinary human being, belonging to the Kshatriya division of the social system. And being a young boy, it was his duty to show respect to such a Brahmana. Lord Krishna continued, "O best of the Brahmanas, you should always remain satisfied, because if a Brahmana is always self-satisfied, he will not deviate from his prescribed duties, and simply by sticking to one's prescribed duties, everyone, especially the Brahmanas, can attain the highest perfection of all desires. Even if a person is as opulent as the king of heaven, Indra, if he is not satisfied, he inevitably has to transmigrate from one planet to another. Such a person can never be happy under any circumstances. But if a person's mind is satisfied, even if he is bereft of high position, he can be happy living anywhere and everywhere." This instruction of Krishna to the Brahmana is very significant. The purport is that a true Brahmana should not be disturbed in any situation. In the modern age of Kali Yuga, the so-called Brahmanas have accepted the abominable position of Sudras and less than Sudras, and still want to pass as qualified Brahmanas. Actually, a qualified Brahmana always sticks to his own duties and never accepts those of a Sudra or one less than a Sudra. It is advised in the authorized scriptures that a Brahmana may, under awkward circumstances, accept the profession of a Kshatriya or even a Vaishya, but never is he to accept the profession of a Sudra. Lord Krishna declared that a Brahmana should never be disturbed by any adverse condition of life if he scrupulously stick to his religious principles. The conclusion, Lord Krishna said, I offer my respectful obeisances to the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, because the Brahmanas are always self-satisfied and the Vaishnavas are always engaged in actual welfare activities for the human society. They are the best friends of all the people in general. Both are free from false egoism and are always in a peaceful condition of mind. Lord Krishna then desired to know about the rulers, Kshatriyas, in the Brahmana kingdom. So inquired whether the citizens of the kingdom were all happy. A king qualification is judged by the temperament of the people in the kingdom. If they are very happy in all respects, it is to be understood that the king is honest and is executing his duties rightly. Krishna said that the king in whose kingdom the citizens are happy is very dear to him. Of course, Krishna could understand that the Brahmana had come with a confidential message. Therefore, he said, if you have no objection, I am giving you permission to speak about your mission. Thus, being satisfied by these transcendental pastimes with Lord Krishna, the Brahmanas narrated the story of his mission to come and see Krishna. He got out the letter which Rukmini had written to Krishna and said, these are the words of Princess Rukmini. My dear Krishna, O infallible and most beautiful one, any human being who happens to hear about your transcendental form and pastimes immediately absorbs through his ears your name, fame, and qualities. Thus all his material pangs subside, and he fixes your form in his heart. Through such transcendental love for you, he sees you always within himself, and by this process, all his desires become fulfilled. Similarly, I have heard of your transcendental qualities. I may be shameless in expressing myself so directly, but you have captivated me and taken my heart. You may suspect that I am an unmarried girl, young in age, and may doubt my steadiness of character. But my dear Mukunda, you are the supreme lion among the human beings, the supreme person among persons. Any girl, although not yet out of her home, or any woman who may be of the highest chastity, would desire to marry you. Being captivated by your unprecedented character, knowledge, opulence, and position, I know that you are the husband of the goddess of fortune, and that you are very kind towards your devotees. Therefore, I have decided to become your eternal maidservant. My dear Lord, I dedicate my life and soul unto your lotus feet. I have accepted your lordship as my selected husband, and I therefore request you to accept me as your wife. You are the supreme powerful, O lotus-eyed one. Now I belong to you. If that which is enjoyable for the lion to eat is taken away by the jackal, it will be a ludicrous affair. Therefore, I request you to immediately take care of me before I am taken away by Sisupala and other princes like him. My dear Lord, in my previous life, I may have done public welfare work, like digging wells and growing trees, or pious activities such as performing ritualistic ceremonies and sacrifice and serving the superior spiritual master, the Brahmanas and the Vaishnavas. By these activities, perhaps, I please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan. If this is so, then I wish that you, Lord Krishna, the brother of Lord Balaram, would please come and catch hold of my hand so that I may not be touched by Sisupala and his company. Rukmini's marriage with Sisupala was already settled. Therefore, she suggested that Krishna kidnap her so that she might be changed. So that this might be changed. This sort of marriage in which the girl is kidnapped by force is known as Raksasa and is practiced among the Kshatriyas or warriors or the administrative, martial, spirited type of men. Because her marriage was already arranged to take place the next day, Rukmini suggested that Krishna come there incognito to kidnap her and then fight with Sisupala and his allies like the king of Magadha. Knowing that no one could conquer Krishna and that he would certainly emerge victorious, she addressed him as Ajita, the unconquerable. Rukmini told Krishna not to be concerned that many of her family members, including other women, might be wounded or even killed if the fighting took place within the palace. As the king of a country thinks of diplomatic ways to achieve his object, similarly, Rukmini, being the daughter of a king, was diplomatic in suggesting how this unnecessary and undesirable killing could be avoided. She explained that it was the custom of her family to visit the temple of the goddess Durga, their family deity, before marriage. The Kshatriya kings were mostly staunch Vaishnavas worshipping Lord Vishnu in either the Radha Krishna or Lakshmi Narayan form. Still, for their material welfare, they used to worship the goddess Durga. They never made the mistake, however, of accepting the demigods as the Supreme Lord on the level of Vishnu Tattva, as did some of the less intelligent men. In order to avoid the unnecessary killing of her relatives, Rukmini suggested that it would be easiest for him to kidnap her while she was going from the palace to the temple, or else while she was returning home. She also explained to Krishna why she was so anxious to be married to him. Even though her marriage was to take place with Sisupala, who was also qualified, being the son of a great king, Rukmini said that she did not think anyone was greater than Krishna. Not even Lord Shiva, who is known as Mahadev, the greatest of all demigods. Lord Shiva also seeks the pleasure of Lord Krishna in order to be delivered from this entanglement in the quality of ignorance within the material world. In spite of the fact that Lord Shiva is the greatest of all great soul, Mahatmas, he keeps on his head the purifying water of the Ganges, which emanates from the hole in this material universe made by the toe of Lord Vishnu. Lord Shiva is in charge of material quality of ignorance, and in order to keep himself in transcendental position, he always meditates on Lord Vishnu. Therefore, Rukmini knew very well that obtaining the favor of Krishna was not an easy job. If even Lord Shiva must purify himself for this purpose, surely it would be difficult for Rukmini, who was only the daughter of a Kshatriya king. Thus she desired to dedicate her life to observing severe austerities and penances, such as fasting and going without bodily comforts. If it were not possible in this lifetime to gain Krishna's favor by these activities, she was prepared to do the same lifetime after lifetime. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that a pure devotee of the Lord execute devotional service with great determination. Such determination, as exhibited by Rukmini Devi, is the only price for purchasing Krishna's favor. And in this way, to ultimate success in Krishna, the ultimate way to success in Krishna consciousness. After explaining Rukmini Devi's statement to Krishna, the Brahmana said, "My dear Krishna, chief of the Yadu dynasty, I brought this confidential message for you from Rukmini. Now it is placed before you for your consideration. After due deliberation, you can act as you please. But if you want to do something, you must do it immediately. There is not much time left for action." Thus end of Bhaktivedanta purport of the second volume, 7th chapter of Krishna, the Rancher. So tomorrow, let's read again the continuation wherein Lord Krishna kidnaps Rukmini in the presence of Sisupala and all the kings and defeated them. Haribol Namaste.
Namo Siddhaswarupananda, Paramahamsa, Krsna 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 Narayana Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Narayana
Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Narayana. Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Narayana.
Jaya Jaya Guru Devi Jaya Jaya Gauranga Jaya Jaya Guru Devi Jaya Jaya Gauranga
Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gauranga, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gauranga.
Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev
Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa
Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa, Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa.
Bhagwan Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasudeva Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
Madana Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Shri Vasudeva Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Mohana Govinda Rama Madana Mohana Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana Madana Mohana.
Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana. Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana.
Gopala Govinda Rama,
Krishna,
Madana Mohana.
Hari Bol Krishna,
Gopala Govinda Rama,
Hari Bol Krishna.
Madana Mohana.
Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana. Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana.
Gopala Govinda Rama,
Krishna,
Madana Mohana.
Hari Bol Krishna,
Gopala Govinda Rama,
Hari Bol Krishna.
Madana Mohana.
Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana. Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana.
Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya
Hari Bol Krishna,
Guranga, Jaya Jaya Gurudev,
Hari Bol Krishna.
Jaya Jaya Guranga.
Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Guranga, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Guranga.
Jaya Jaya Shila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev,
Krishna,
Jaya Jaya Shila Prabhupada,
Krishna,
Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa. Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa.
Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa. Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda